The breaches still continue to happen. So how can we close on that gap? How do I get to know that they're working without getting hacked? And offensive security is the answer. In a pen test, I get 2-3 critical findings that are actual doors that I close on a hacker. We don't know what we will uncover. Focus on the problem and always remember why you're in the game. Otherwise, you will knock yourself out of it sooner than later.
Who says tech can't be human?
What's going on, Hacker Valley fam? Welcome back to the show. We are at Black Hat 2024. It is an amazing conference. If you're not here, don't worry, we're going to bring the conference to you. And we can't do it without special guests. Today, my special guest is Seemant Sehgal, CEO and founder of BreachLock. Welcome to the podcast.
Thanks for having me on.
Thank you for coming on. I was super excited about partnering with BreachLock, learning more about you. The team was so passionate to have you on the show. And they said, hey, this is going to be your best podcast ever. So you have some big shoes to fill.
No problem.
So tell me a little bit about BreachLock. I've done my research, done my homework. I know that focuses on penetration testing. Before we hit record, we're talking about EASM, external attack surface management. But, how would you describe the company?
So BreachLock is a complete offensive security partner for any enterprise. We have 3 buckets that we fill in the offensive security area. The first one is obviously pen testing as a service. That's what we pioneered in the past 5.5 years. The second one is external attack surface management, right? So we help companies with that. And the third one is red teaming as a service, right? Mm-hmm. In short, it's a way for CISOs to have an offensive security lens on their security investments and kind of prepare themselves to see how they can be broken into, how their incident management would respond when there's a break-in, and how can they improve their detection, right? So it's a full, health check on their security ecosystem. And like I said, we're a partner. What that means is it's one platform where they see all these solutions consolidated. And that means that they don't have to go to 5 vendors to check, web apps or APIs or network. They can get all in one single platform.
If a CISO came to me and said, Ron, should I invest in red teaming or pen testing? I would be like, I don't know. It's a tough one. If you could only invest in one thing or offer one thing to your customers and prospects, which one would you start with?
That's a great question. So look, the way I always explain this to CISOs is it depends on what do you think your maturity level is, right? When hackers look at you, they don't care what your policies are. They don't care if it's a low, medium, or high criticality asset. I know the industry is very big on, hey, we need to classify asset inventory, this and that. But hackers don't care about all of that. They're coming from an outside-in perspective. So it kind of depends on where you see yourself in the maturity cycle. And what I mean with that, if you've not even done your basic hygiene well, and that's pen testing, right? The other aspect of this is that if you have done the hygiene checks, then there's more parts of the ecosystem that come into play. And what do I mean with that? That means people and processes. And that's where red teaming comes in. So red teaming comes in from an ecosystem perspective. Mm-hmm. How are you a target for a hacker when they look at your people? We know, security awareness in itself is a very big industry in cybersecurity, and we know a lot of incidents that happen mostly come through spear phishing attacks or, things of that nature. It takes a lot of awareness for the employees to be able to learn that. And I think red teams can help with that. And once you get through that spear phishing phase, then we get to your endpoint detection. There's always that one trick that we can use to bypass even the best of the EDRs in the world. And not to undermine the investments that are made in EDRs. I think they're still very good investment, but that's not unbreakable, right? And once you have done that, then you look how you can move laterally and exfiltrate data and connect it to a command and control center. So that's what all red teaming is about. It's a combination of people, process, technology. Pen testing, on the other hand, is basic hygiene. It's not optional. I mean, it's almost a crime to put something of value in production without running a pen test on it. I can't take that.
Yeah. I think that happens more than we would like just because of the nature of business. We have to generate revenue. And sometimes that means just putting something out there or making a fix that you don't necessarily know the consequences to. Let's say that you were an alter ego of yourself coming in as a black hat hacker, right? We're at Black Hat and you're trying to breach a company. What are the things that you want? Would it be money? Would it be data? Would it be intellectual property, customer data? What do you think is that high value asset for attackers?
Yeah, it's all of that, right? It's all of that. And basically you have to think about the threat actor. If the threat actor is nation state, they would have very different goals. If it's your competitor, they would have different goals, like corporate espionage.
Yeah.
And if it's just a script kiddie doing it for, fun and money, then it's a different goal, right? So you always have to think in the threat actor's shoes. The biggest misconception in this industry is that hackers are always looking for the most difficult way in. And that's totally not so true. They don't care about the investments that you've made in your EDRs and stuff. They're always looking for a low-hanging fruit. So if they find something that's easy way to get in, they will.
I'd like to jump in for a second to share some details about our sponsor for this episode, BreachLock. We know in the world of cybersecurity, waiting for an attack is not an option. The best way forward is to take the fight back to the attackers. The team at BreachLock are pioneers in the space. They don't just defend, they think like the attacker does. BreachLock's offensive security solutions empowers teams to stay proactive in identifying and mitigating risks before the attackers have the opportunity to strike. BreachLock is a global leader in continuous attack surface discovery and penetration testing. They're trusted by over 1,000 enterprises across 20 countries. BreachLock has discovered over 1 million vulnerabilities and conducted over 30,000 penetration tests. Their in-house ethical hackers have performed tests on web applications, mobile apps, network endpoints, APIs, and more. With BreachLock, you can continuously discover, prioritize, and mitigate exposures with evidence-backed penetration testing, attack surface management, and red teaming. It's time to get proactive and make the attackers uncomfortable. Visit breachlock.com today and secure your enterprise before the breach. Thank you, BreachLock, for sponsoring this episode.
Hackers are not stupid. They're always looking for the easiest way in. So even if you have the best of EDRs, you configured your firewalls well, and there's that one simple connection that you left open or a patch that was released 8 months ago, and you didn't patch that, they are going to take that route. They don't care about your EDRs and the millions of dollars that you spend. And I think that's where the industry needs to kind of cope up, right? But I would look at all of that. Depending on who I'm playing on that day as a threat actor, right? That would change what I look at. But by the end of the day, I'm still going to look at the easiest way in. The whole continuous angle, just as a nice segue to this with security, the continuous security testing, continuous pen testing. Why that's important is that what is the low-hanging fruit? It's the lowest one that was hanging. If you take that out, it's the next one.
Yeah.
Right? So it's also a continuous process, just another way of looking at it as a hacker.
I see exposure management kind of emerging as a term that people are using interchangeably with attack surface management. And I think when it comes down to whatever strategy that you decide, whether it be EASM, pen testing as a service, red team as a service, you have to have a trusted partner. And that's one of the gripes I hear from cybersecurity practitioners is I don't trust my vendor. Do you think that your background as a cybersecurity practitioner has helped establish and cultivate some of that trust?
Oh, absolutely. I think it's and I've had a lot of those conversations at Black Hat. And the first thing I tell any CISO that I'm meeting is like, hey, look, talk to me like a practitioner. I'm a practitioner. I'm not a sales guy. And so let's discuss the problems you have. And if I've seen the movie before, I'm here to help, right?
Right.
So I think it goes a long way. I've spent 25 years in the industry. I was in the buyer's shoes. So I've bought it from, all the big fours, pen testing from big fours and some of the biggest names in the industry. So I know what their strengths are. I know what the gaps are. I know where the process is lacking.
Yeah.
And when I'm able to speak to them about the life that they're living, because I've been in their shoes, I think it takes the conversation to an altogether different level of trust. And I think like cybersecurity is all about trust, right? So they're not wrong in telling you that that's what they're after. And trust is very simple. Do what you say and say what you do, right? And I think our industry needs to learn that a bit more than it already is. And you can be just very open about promises that you're making, but you aren't sure about it. And it can be an exploration when you're not sure of how it'll turn out to be in the end.
Yep.
For example, I'll take an anecdote to that. Whenever we do a red team exercise for a client, we always tell them that we're drawing an attack tree. But I'm guaranteeing you now, when we finish the red team, this would look way different than how we've planned it, because we don't know what we will uncover. So I think little things like that go a long way in managing expectations with clients, and that's how you can build trust.
Yeah, clear communication goes a long way, like you're saying. Let me ask you about yourself for a second. You're building this company. Sounds like you're loving it. What's your why as to continue on?
Yeah, so I think when I got my hands into offensive security initially, even in my previous avatar where I was, on the buying side of the table, what I saw, and I've done a lot, right? I've done detection, I've done application security, I've done offensive security, I've done, boring identity access management stuff, SOX controls, I've done it all. Then when I looked at offensive security, there was an immediate return on investment, right? So I was comparing like a detection solution, the way we would have let's say a couple of $1 million worth of contract, and that we'd be looking for a needle in a haystack, and we wouldn't find it throughout the year. And like I said, nobody wants to be hacked, so hopefully you will never find it, right? On the other hand, if I put like 30 grand in a pen test, I get 2-3 critical findings that are actual doors that I close on a hacker, right? So my why is that, like, okay, fine, we're spending money, but the breaches still continue to happen. So how can we close on that gap, Again, not to undermine all the defense investments that we are making. They're absolutely required and they're very useful. But how do I get to know that they're working without getting hacked? And offensive security is the answer. So just having those CISOs, get them the bang for the buck. And basically in the end, the why is to have a more safe cyberspace, right? That's the real why, because in the end, I think it's a noble cause. We are not just protecting corporation money. In the end, it's always somebody's credit card data, somebody's healthcare data, somebody's PII data, and they're all paying for those security measures, right? So it's not for free. I got into this because there was a good versus bad fight. That's the thing that excited me the most. And I think we have a lot of work to do in that space. There's still breaches happening. And I think BreachLock and myself, we're doing our part in making sure that the CISOs get to know before time. So that's not all bad news, and it's not all in the press. They get to know about the gaps before time, and they can act on it proactively by remediating those. And I think in that way, BreachLock is doing its bit to keep the cyberspace a bit safe.
Love that. There's people like myself that work in cybersecurity that have that dream of being an entrepreneur, a tech entrepreneur, a cybersecurity entrepreneur. What advice would you have for someone that has a practitioner background to get a little bit closer of identifying if being a cybersecurity CEO is for them?
Well, to be an entrepreneur, I mean, the most important thing is the why. And if it's money, go back to question number 1 again, right? That part will come in a lot later when you've actually solved the problem. And before that, there's a long journey that you have to make.
For sure.
And it's filled with a lot of challenges, especially for me. My journey initially, or even today, is pretty much bootstrapped, I would say, to a great extent compared to what our competitors have raised. We've raised, I would say, nothing, right? And we are still incredibly able to help clients. So for any entrepreneur, the most important thing is the why, and it can never be money, right?
Yeah.
So you have to go back to the question again, if that. And once you've sorted out the why, then you have to get back to the problem that you're solving, And you love your solution, but nobody else cares about that, right? People that are buying from you are caring about the problem that they have, and they are desperately looking for help, right? So if you go to somebody that comes to you that, hey, this is my problem, and all you're singing about is, your solution because you love it so much, guess what? You're not going to make a sale, and you're going to probably lose the prospect's interest, right? So I think those are 2 most important things. Focus on the problem and always remember why you're in the game. Otherwise, you will knock yourself out of it sooner than later.
Well, you sound passionate on the subject. I love it. I feed off of stuff like that. I'm rooting for you. I'm wishing you and the BreachLock team the best. And also, thank you so much from the bottom of our hearts to taking some time out of your busy day to jump on the mics with us at Black Hat. If you haven't done so already, be sure to check out BreachLock. Follow them on all the platforms and also follow Seemant. By the way, this is Black Hat 2024, where there's a lot going on. Seemant, I hope you have a great rest of your conference and experience. And with that, we will see everyone next time.